When a man asks these three questions, he's falling for you. But most women miss the signs. If there is one thing I've seen again and again. After spending decades helping women understand male psychology, it is this. Asterisk. There are moments when a man unconsciously reveals what's happening in his heart long before. He's ready to say it out loud, and it almost always happens through the questions he asks. Most women hear these questions, but they miss what they actually mean. They think it's casual conversation. They answer on autopilot, and they don't realize they're being invited into something deeper. That's why today, I want to open your eyes to something that could change how you see the men around you. When a man is falling in love, his emotional brain starts working in a very different way. He may not even know it himself, but something shifts. And that shift comes out in subtle but powerful ways, especially in what he chooses to ask you. Now, here's what's fascinating. A man can spend months dating, even years being physically close with someone, and still never ask these particular questions because they don't come from casual interest. They only appear when his heart is moving toward something real, when he's no longer seeing you as a temporary experience, but as someone who could become part of his future. The reason is biological as much as emotional. You see, neuroscience shows that when a man is in the early stages of attraction, most of his mental energy is centered around immediate pleasure and reward. He's living in the moment, focused on chemistry, physical presence, the thrill of connection. But when deeper feelings start to take hold, something changes in his brain. His prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning and imagining the future, starts to light up, and that shift creates what I call emotional future dash mapping. It's not conscious. It's not deliberate. It's not something he decides to do. It happens because falling in love literally rewires how he sees you and how he imagines what could be. And this interchange produces one very consistent outward sign. He starts asking questions that reflect this new way of seeing you, not as someone he's spending time with for fun, but as someone he's quietly wondering if he could build something lasting with. These questions may seem small. You may not think much of them at first, but they are anything but random. They are, in fact, some of the clearest windows into what's happening in his emotional world. And here's why this matters so much. I have seen countless women miss these moments simply because no one ever taught them what these questions really mean. They think, oh, he's just making conversation, or that's sweet of him to ask. But underneath that casual tone is something much more powerful. An unconscious emotional invitation that, if answered well, can deepen the bond between you. Or, if missed, can quietly close the door on it. So today, I want to reveal 3 key questions that, in my experience, no man asks by accident. If he is asking you these, it is a sign that something deep is happening inside him. Let's begin with the first one, a question that sounds deceptively simple. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Now you might hear this and think, isn't that a common question? Don't people ask this in job interviews? Isn't it something anyone might say to make conversation? Yes, on the surface, it can seem casual. But when this question comes from a man who is beginning to fall for you, carries a very different emotional weight, because in that moment, what he's really doing is this. He is starting to imagine a life that includes you, and he is testing, without fully realizing it, whether your vision for the future might align with his. You see, when a man's feelings deepen, his mind begins building a kind of future map. It's not just about who you are now. It's about who you might become together, and for his heart to move forward, he needs to feel that there is enough overlap, enough possibility for that future to be shared. It's like a kind of emotional due diligence. Before he lets himself fall completely, his unconscious mind is seeking out clues. Do your values match? Are your life paths compatible? Will you want the same things, not just this month, but years from now? That's why this question matters so much. It is not small talk. It is emotional reconnaissance. And when a woman understands this, when she responds with clarity and authenticity, she opens the door to a deeper connection. But when she brushes it off, gives a vague answer, or acts indifferent, she sends a message even without meaning to, that she is not thinking in terms of shared future, which can cause his emotional momentum to quietly stall. I've seen this dynamic play out. So many times, a woman thinks she's being light and fun. But what the man hears, beneath the surface, is she's not building a vision that includes me, and the emotional opening begins to close. So when you hear this question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Listen with your heart, not just your ears. Understand what's really being asked. Are we dreaming in the same direction? Now, let's move to the second question, one that requires even more emotional vulnerability on his part. What? Do you feel for me? For many men, this is an incredibly difficult question to ask. Because, let's be honest, most men are raised to guard their feelings. From a young age, they're taught to be strong, to be in control, to avoid exposing vulnerability. But when a man is falling in love, that armor begins to crack. He reaches a point where he needs to know, not just guess, not just hope, what place he holds in your heart. And asking this question takes courage, because in doing so, he's making himself emotionally exposed. He is, in effect, saying, I am open to being hurt because knowing your truth matters more to me than protecting myself. This is one of the clearest signs that his feelings are real, that what he is experiencing with you is not just attraction or curiosity, but deep emotional investment. And yet, so many women misread this moment. They hear the question and they deflect, either because they're unsure or because they fear being too vulnerable themselves. Or worse, they misinterpret his openness as weakness, when in fact, it is one of the strongest and bravest things a man can do. Here's what I tell every woman I coach. When a man asks you what you feel for him, he is handing you a piece of his heart. How you respond can either deepen the trust between you or leave him feeling emotionally unsafe. Because when a man reaches this point, he is craving not just love, but emotional safety. He needs to know that the vulnerability he is offering will be met with honesty and respect. It doesn't mean you have to declare undying love if you're not ready, but it does mean that responding with authenticity, with warmth, with acknowledgement of the connection you do feel, however you would truthfully name it, is crucial. Because at this stage, he is listening not just to your words, but to the emotional resonance behind them. And if he senses coldness, indifference, or dismissal, it can wound far more deeply than most women realize. Remember, a weak man won't ask this question. A strong man, one who is truly open to love, will, and your response in that moment is more powerful than you know. Before we go deeper, let me share something very personal. Asterisk in my own path of helping others heal and grow. One method that has transformed how many of my clients understand relationships is the Jung method. If you want to explore the deeper patterns of your emotions and truly understand the psychology behind love, you'll find the link in the first comment below this video. Now, let's return to this important conversation. Asterisk, because there is a third type of question that may seem the least important on the surface yet. It is often the most revealing. It's the kind of question that many women dismiss as routine or casual. Things like, did you eat today? Did you get home safely? How was your day? Simple, yes, but meaningless. Absolutely not. In fact, these small, consistent questions often reveal more about a man's emotional attachment than any grand romantic gesture. Let me explain why. Men, neurologically, tend to be more compartmentalized in their thinking than women. They are able to separate the areas of their lives, work, relationships, family, hobbies, and often focus on one thing at a time. When a man is only casually interested, He will engage with you when you are physically present. But when you're apart, you likely won't occupy his mental space. His mind moves back into its usual compartments. But when he is falling in love, something changes in how he processes his day. You begin to inhabit his inner world, even when you are not physically present. He finds himself wondering how you are. If you've eaten, if you've got home safely, not out of obligation, but because your well-being has started to matter to him in a deep and personal way. These small questions are what I call micro-expressions of care. They are his way of saying, I'm thinking of you. You are part of my world now. And they reveal a very important emotional shift. He is no longer living life as a completely self-contained individual. He is beginning to emotionally integrate you into his daily experience. And that is a profound sign of love in development. But here's where things often go wrong. Many women, especially if they've been hurt in the past, can become defensive when they hear these kinds of questions. They may interpret them as attempts to control, or as overly familiar too soon, or simply dismiss them as trivial. And in doing so, they unintentionally miss the deeper message behind them. I've seen this pattern countless times. A man is slowly opening his heart, reaching out in these small, caring ways, and instead of feeling received, he feels pushed back. Not because the woman doesn't care, but because she doesn't recognize these moments for what they truly are. The truth is, when a man asks about your well-being, about your day, about whether you've eaten, it's not about the facts, it's about the emotional connection. It's about saying, in the language he knows how to speak, I'm here. I care. You are on my mind. And when a woman responds with warmth, with appreciation, with reciprocal curiosity, something very powerful happens. The emotional bond between them begins to strengthen in ways that words alone cannot achieve. Because love, ultimately, is built in the small things, in consistent care, in everyday presence, in the feeling that someone holds you in their heart, even in the quiet moments of life. Let me give you an example. One client I worked with, an incredible woman in her 40s, was dating a man who would often text her during the day, "Did you remember to eat lunch? How was that meeting you mentioned? Are you home safe?" At first, she found it a bit odd. She thought, I don't need someone checking up on me. I'm an independent woman. But as we explored it together, she realized something deeper. This was not about control. It was about connection. It was his way, shaped by years of emotional conditioning, of expressing affection and concern. And once she responded with understanding and warmth, their relationship deepened in ways she hadn't expected. Because, here's the truth, men love through actions more than words. They may not always articulate their emotions with the same verbal fluency that women do. But their consistent caring behaviors are how they say, you matter to me. And when those actions are recognized and valued, it gives them the emotional safety to open their hearts even more. Now, let's talk about one more question. A kind of invitation that almost always signals a man is moving toward long-term commitment. Would you like to meet my family? On the surface, this may seem like just another step in dating, but in reality, it is one of the most significant emotional thresholds a man can cross. Because for most men, family is the place where they are most vulnerable, most authentic. It's where they remove their social and professional masks, where they are simply themselves. When a man invites you into that space, he is making several important statements at once. First, he trusts you. He believes you will handle this part of his life with respect and understanding. Second, he sees you as potentially permanent. Men do not bring casual dates into their family circle. Third, he is emotionally integrating you into his inner world. It is a way of saying, you are not just someone I see occasionally, you are someone I want to weave into the fabric of my life. And this invitation often carries an unconscious desire for validation as well. He wants the people he cares about to meet you, not just to show you off, but because he's hoping they will see what he sees and affirm that this connection is real and good. Again, many women miss the depth of this moment. They think, well, meeting the family is just another step. It doesn't mean much, but it does. In fact, it may be one of the clearest signs that he is falling in love, because for a man to merge his emotional worlds, to bring together his private life and his romantic life, is a profound act of vulnerability. It means he is ready for something more, and how a woman responds to this invitation can either reinforce that emotional bridge or create distance. So here is what I want every woman to remember. Not every man who flirts, who dates you, or even who sleeps with you is falling in love. Many men can engage in romantic behaviors without deep, emotional commitment. But the man who consistently asks these questions about your future, your feelings, your well-being, and who begins inviting you into his inner life, that is a man whose heart is opening in ways even he may not fully understand. And when you recognize these signs and respond with warmth, authenticity, and reciprocal emotional presence, you give that love the space to grow. But when you dismiss, deflect, or remain emotionally distant, you may be closing a door that leads to something beautiful. Here is something else. I've learned after years of working with couples, mature love is built in these moments, not in dramatic declarations, but in simple questions, genuine curiosity, and everyday caring. When he asks, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" he is not testing you. He is inviting you to dream together. When he asks, "What do you feel for me?" he is not seeking reassurance. He is offering emotional intimacy. When he asks, "Did you eat? Are you safe? How was your day?" he is not being controlling. He is building a bridge of care. And when he says, "Would you like to meet my family?" he is not being casual. He is opening the door to his truest self. So the question I leave with you today is this: will you recognize these moments for what they truly are? And will you have the emotional courage to respond in kind? Because love does not arrive with a soundtrack or dramatic scenes like in the movies. It arrives in questions, in curiosity, in the small acts of daily care, in the willingness to invite someone into your life and to be invited into theirs. If you can see love in these forms and respond with the same authenticity, you will create the kind of deep, lasting connection that so many seek, but so few truly find.